Welcome back to your favorite bi-weekly, bi-monthly, every 3-week podcast of all things Pittsburgh sports. It's Stranded in Pittsburgh. Nick Hedrick, Nate Breisinger, and Man vs. Wild Ethan Morrison out on his Adirondack chair in the hills of Cranberry. Ethan, I'm gonna throw to you first. How are you doing, my friend? Because
I'm doing great, Nick.
His new portable setup. He was all giddy to show me and Nate.
I was so giddy to show my portable setup, but I'm doing great. Enjoying the great outdoors on this balmy evening in Western Pennsylvania. But it's nice out here. It's nice and relaxing.
It is.
Got the birds chirping in the background,
Wow.
and couldn't be happier to get back at it. Stranded in Pittsburgh. Let's do it.
That's beautiful. Nate, are you staying cool?
Not really. I turned off my air conditioner because it was too loud. So I guarantee me and Ethan are going to look like we're taking showers by the end of this episode.
Yeah, I'll be right there with you. I ran it and closed my door because I have a little window one in here, and I don't think the air's going to stay cool enough for the half hour we'll be chatting here. But, I'll pray and I'll hope. But anyway, appreciate everyone joining us. Hopefully you're staying cold if you are listening from the Pittsburgh area, although I think this heat's kind of widespread throughout the country right now. Middle of my workday yesterday, my power went out, so that was a hot start. We only have 4 or 5 more days of this, so that was really good to see the grid handling day one of all the usage. But excited to be back. Excited today to break down the Mike Tomlin contract extension, talk about the Steelers on Hard Knocks. Not much to say about the Pirates. They're playing, inching closer to that 500 mark. Paul Skeens had a good outing yesterday after a rough first inning, and he bounced back well against the Reds. Great to see that in a divisional game. But the Pirates are doing Pirate things. Nothing insanely notable to talk about. Rowdy Tellez is hitting like 400 in the last month or something, though, so that's great for him. Awesome to see. But anyway, Mike Tomlin contract extension is finalized. He is now going to be the man at the helm through 2027, assuming all goes according to plan. I'm going to switch our camera layout there briefly. Sorry, everyone just got a jump scare of our faces being much closer than they previously were. But Mike Tomlin, the man who walked off the podium after the game in Buffalo, the playoff game that was, when asked about his future with the Steelers, now going to be with the team for a little while longer, at least, or fingers crossed, that's the plan. As always, you know how it goes now with Coach Tomlin. A lot of people hyping this up. A lot of people saying, what the hell are we doing? Are we going to really be content with mediocrity for a few years longer? Ethan, you're out there. The birds are chirping. You're chirping. What do you got to say about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was something that when you look at it, didn't come as a big surprise in terms of newsworthy. Obviously, it's big with Tomlin getting an extension, but if you're really looking into how this front office has been run and with the Rooney still in power with ownership, it wasn't really much. It didn't come as much surprise that he would be sticking around and getting a contract extension, especially. I think even now, just looking at where they are at now and bringing in some new blood in the quarterback position, really giving Tomlin this next go around with two different quarterbacks that have a shot at making an impact, a younger guy in Justin Fields and a more veteran guy in Russell Wilson. They're giving him another shot. Obviously, the Kenny Pickett experiment did not work out, and everything that went on with that, all of the backlash that came of that and everything that happened at the end of last year. So they're really just giving him another shot here. Personally, I don't mind it. A lot of people I know, the argument is they've been mediocre. They've been mediocre for almost a half a decade, 8-9 years now. Haven't won a playoff game in that span since 2016, right? 2016 now was the last time that they won a playoff game, and actually made a deep run in the postseason before they lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship. It was 2016. The argument's there, but also he's still producing results in the regular season, which I know the standard is the standard, and the standard has not been lived up to. He's getting comfy, but there needs to be a little something. And I mean, at this point, I think this is his last hurrah. If he can't do anything in these next 3 years, I think he's out. But in terms of seeing this, whenever it got broken that he was going to be extended, it didn't come as much of a surprise to me. I knew he was going to be the guy in the coming days that, or in the coming next couple of years, that he would be the guy to lead this team. So it didn't come as much of a surprise. It just, what's he able to make of it now? And he's kind of set up for success now, especially getting Wilson and Fields now, to where it's your make or break time. It's your time to really take the next step forward and really see results over these next couple of years.
Ethan, I thought you were gonna pull a Bob Walk there and just fly out of your chair. The way you were leaning back, like
leaning back.
I'm like waiting for it.
That's why I love this chair.
Look at all the space.
Look at this.
Little Bob Walk impression.
So much room
You
for
can't beat
activities.
it. You can't beat it.
So much room. Look at that. Look at that guy.
Can you go do a cartwhol out there?
Yeah.
I think I would break my neck if I tried to do a cartwheel, but
Hang on.
we might as well do it. I mean, if you asked, I might as well.
This is nuts. Oh dear Lord.
There we
His
go.
ACLs are gone. That's
ACLs
terrifying.
Going after that, but there we go.
Wow.
There you go. Your wish is my command.
That's nuts.
That was like a -1
Thank you.
rating from the
Thank
judges
you.
table.
Don't send me to Paris. Don't send me to Paris.
I won't.
Thank you.
I will not be doing
You're
that.
You're far from that. Anyways, back to Mike Tomlin. He just doesn't do it for me. Mike Tomlin just doesn't do it for me anymore. I mean, obviously, I mean there's either side you can go. I mean, the big reason is why he's still in Pittsburgh is players love him. People want to play for him, which is such a big deal. And especially now in today's day and age where, I don't know, I feel like players have shorter fuses, and you obviously see some of the things that happen. And obviously it's right there in terms of the Pittsburgh Steelers organization that they've dealt with over the past couple of years, which is another hindrance to Mike Tomlin, that he couldn't keep Antonio Brown under control, and all the social media stuff with Juju and Chase Claypool and the music at practices and all that sort of craziness that always pops up with this organization. But in terms of on-field performance, there is a standard in Pittsburgh. And obviously with the teams he had in the mid-2010s, where he had Ben and Brown and Bell, I mean, there was a high expectation, and they couldn't get past Cleveland, or not Cleveland, complete opposite. Couldn't get past New England, couldn't get to where they should have been and where they could have been. And then now they're just sitting here at this 500 level, but he's never had a losing season, which obviously is another big thing. And people respect Tomlin for that. But I swear, when you look at the NHL and you look at the NBA, as soon as coaches sit around there for too long, like, they're done. And there's just this long, I just don't know what the Steelers are waiting for. Because if the Steelers continue, which, I mean, that's kind of what I feel like is going to happen over the next at least 2 years. Steelers are going to sit 8-9 or 9-8. So when becomes the time? Like, when is the bar? Like, where is the bar for when it's finally time for Tomlin to go? And plus, reportedly, this contract per year is now $19 million, reportedly. And that's the second highest paid contract in the NFL behind Andy Reid. Like, that's kind of craziness. You look at Andy Reid has set the bar. He set it high, obviously winning championships in Kansas City with even a team this past year that just wasn't as good as their previous championship teams. And you have Mike Tomlin, who's sitting right around where he is, can't get past the first round, and he's being rewarded for that. I don't think they shouldn't have given him a contract extension. I think he probably deserved maybe a year or two. But who knows? If they only gave him a year, would he have accepted that contract? Who knows? So it's a mixed feeling, but just Tomlin, his time's got to be closer to the end than we think in Pittsburgh.
I think you've both kind of said it well. There's a mixed bag here in terms of Mike Tomlin. On the positive side, you have a guy who's never had a losing season in Pittsburgh, a guy who finds a way to get them into the playoffs more than not. a guy who players, love playing for. They all talk about how much they love Coach T, how much Coach Tomlin means to them, what a good guy he is, all that stuff. A guy who might have kept Antonio Brown's behavior under wraps for a lot longer than a lot of other coaches could have. There's a lot of positives there. He had a guy named Duck help him keep a 500 record. It's been impressive, but there's also a lot of negatives. Nate, you mentioned the fact that it's almost been 10 years now without a playoff game victory. You're finishing above 500 all those years. That's interesting. That math's not very favorable there to not have one in the win column over that time frame. They play down to competition frequently. Arizona and New England from this past year, does that ring a bell? We're talking about totally different seeding for this team. Home field advantage potential if the team wins those 2 games this season and more. Long-winded way of saying, I'm not sure how I feel about this. I agree with Nate where this year should have been your year where he shows you something. They've addressed the offensive line. They've gone out and signed some big-name defenders. They've brought in Russell Wilson, an experienced Super Bowl winning veteran quarterback who I know is towards the end of his career. They brought in a successor to him in Justin Fields, or at least a hopeful successor to him in Justin Fields. I think you gave him this year, maybe next year again. Maybe he doesn't want that. Maybe he wants more commitment from the team for being there for 17 years. And I understand that. But I think giving him this many seasons after what we saw last year, where they had the easiest schedule to close out the season and they began it with some horrendous losses that never should have taken place, it makes you a little, how do you feel about that? How do you unpack that? I'm not sure. The Steeler way, I think, needs to be evaluated here. Is the Steeler way really saying, oh, hooray, we finished 500 and we're content with doing that, even if it means not winning playoff games? I don't know. And it's weird to fire a coach who has never had a losing season. But a decade without a playoff win speaks for itself, and we're getting close to that. And again, this is a point I bring up frequently, but sure, they're getting winning seasons. But the Steelers have felt very stagnant the last few years. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, because they're still finding ways to have massive success against Baltimore, who's always at the top echelon of the AFC teams. But when's the last time you really felt like, a cold day in January in an AFC playoff game, on their best day, the Steelers have a chance to beat the Chiefs. The Steelers have a chance to beat the Bills. It seems like the accomplishment is getting to that point, getting to a point where, we can make it there and get head-to-head against this team. But no one really wants to talk about the result, which is they've never felt like they're on that same level as Buffalo or Kansas City in the last handful of years. And again, that doesn't all fall on Coach Tomlin, but it's the fact that they've seemed content being in that category of being just good enough to get into the playoffs, just good enough to get a wild card spot. And it seems like that starts at the top. And who's at the top? Coach T. That's what the T stands for. And I am just wondering if giving him this much of a commitment was really the right step for this team.
You would think this is a Art Rooney type of extension. I don't think any other owner across the league would give a guy that hasn't won a playoff game in 10 years or in almost 10 years, a commitment like this, a 3-year commitment, even with the success that he has had in the regular season and keeping guys together, a real locker room guy. Don't you guys think this is more of this is what the Rooney family is like, and this is more of a Rooney type of deal in terms of a guy that you've had for almost 2 decades now, approaching 3 years away from 2 decades, a guy that's won you a Super Bowl, guy that's brought you to another one and had success in the early part of his career in the playoffs. In my book, it's totally a Rooney type of deal of give him 3 years, give him another shot at this, and then reconvene in 2027 after his contract is up.
And sort of to go back to your point, Nick, you talked about all the teams that the Steelers, trying to face up against in the AFC. Another team that, very similar, obviously. I mean, these 2 teams are always fighting for the division, and the Baltimore Ravens. Very similar situation when you look at John Harbaugh. He's been there since 2008, but I feel like they have more to play. They have more to play for in terms of that team. They have the players there. They've won the division like 4 out of the last 6 years. And obviously the Steelers have won the division, in the past 10 years, but like it just doesn't seem as promising as what Harbaugh might be working with. And who knows the situation down there? I mean, they obviously haven't been able to get back to the Super Bowl since, 11 that they won. So very similar situations, but there's a sense of blind reality with the Steelers. I feel like everyone looks at those, okay, no losing seasons. Mike Tomlin, loved by players, especially the national media folks, love that stuff. But here in Pittsburgh, people are starting to get real sick and tired of, this lousy mediocrity that's been established here over the past decade. So I think a 1 year or 2 year deal would have made sense. I'm just shocked by also the pay increase, which I guess you could have said you saw that coming just with the money now in the league, but like it's just a little bit surprising that they're really sticking. I mean, maybe not surprising, but maybe to some comes as a surprise that, the Steelers are really, really sticking with this guy. And I'm sure in 2 years, there's going to be talks of extending him once again.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike Tomlin will be a key figure on Hard Knocks in season, where it was announced the whole entire AFC North is going to be involved. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist. There were people saying that's why they gave the Steelers such a tough schedule to end the year, because it's all going to be documented behind the scenes. I don't know if I really buy that. I just read that a bunch and thought it was worth bringing up. This is only going to be the second time they do an in-season version of Hard Knocks. They did the Dolphins last year, I believe, and that was it. And now they're just going to do an entire division, the grittiest division in football, a division that's always close, or at least feels close. Watch it actually suck this year. This is like the 1 year where the AFC North's just not that entertaining. But hell of a thing to read on a Monday afternoon was that they're just doing the whole division. And we are going to get a lot of Tomlinisms from this. We're going to maybe see some of the Justin Fields, Russell Wilson behind the scenes. We're going to see George Pickens being George Pickens. There's a lot to unpack here just from the Pittsburgh side. But what do you think? I mean, not even trying to be biased, the Steelers are one of the most compelling teams coming into this season with all the changes they've had, and I think it's going to be interesting to get that behind-the-scenes look. And this is what they typically go for in Hard Knocks. But, I mean, what do you make, Nate, of them covering this entire division and how it can be kind of viewed from the Steelers and what is a pretty big, I don't know if transitional year is the right term to use for it, but a year where there's going to be a lot of change and a team that's had a lot of distraction off the field bring them down over the last couple of years. How do you think having an entire documentary crew following them around during the most crucial stretch of the season is going to fare for this team?
See, I like it, but I'm curious to see what Tomlin thinks of it because, I mean, to be covered like you've never been covered before, all access to these crews. But however, HBO missed the years of theatrics of your Mitch Trubisky's and Deontay Johnson's. And obviously way before that with Bell and Brown would have been awesome to see behind the scenes a little bit. There's plenty of storylines coming into this year. We'll see how all that unfolds. But I like it. I think it's going to be cool to see, the division. I think there might be a little bit added intensification to the AFC North just because they're being documented and people are going to be mic'd up or there's going to be thousands of microphones or whatever on the sideline of these games that, I don't know, I think it could play into something really cool where like the divisional matchups just mean that much more this year. And we're going to see some tremendous battles and rivalries really hit front and center of the NFL, which, I mean, I know they've been documented before, but it's pretty cool. Now, the only thing is, I mean, there was something special about Hard Knocks following one team, and obviously that's changing. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But, it's cool. I had the opportunity to talk to, this was like back in September. Ethan, I told you about this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Bob Angelo, who was the guy that basically started with the idea of Hard Knocks. He worked for NFL Films. Talked to him, and he was there the first year they did it in 2001 with the Baltimore Ravens and Shannon Sharp and Ray Lewis and all those guys. And like how cool it is to get some of those nuggets, some of the quotes you get out of it. So it would be cool to see what the Steelers have to offer. Maybe not the same because it's in season, so probably a lot more serious stuff compared to training camp where, guys are obviously battling for a job, but like you get some funny things that happen, but we'll see. I think it'll be cool.
Oh, I'm all for this. I watched a little bit of the what was it, the Cardinals in 22 when they came out with that in 22, and then I watched pretty much every episode of the Dolphins in season Hard Knocks in 23, and I loved it. I loved it being in season. Obviously, the Dolphins were a little bit more entertaining because they were going for a playoff push in there and making it to the playoffs and everything like that. But to cover a whole division in December, a division that's always tight, like Nick, like you said, always tight and always in the thick of it to the last 2 weeks of the season, I'm just tingling with excitement because of this. Like you've got the Ravens, who are expected to be one of the top dogs in the division. The Browns that could make a push. The Steelers that are fighting, that Nick, like you said, that are in a transition year, got new blood in the quarterback position. They're fighting. They made the playoffs last year when not a lot of people thought they would even sniff the playoffs last year. Then the Bengals that are looking to bounce back after a lackluster year with Joe Burrow getting injured. This division is there. And to have it come in December with the Steelers playing in six divisional games down the stretch in the season, man, I cannot be more excited. Did the NFL do this on purpose, scheduling 6 divisional games in the final, month of the regular season? I think so, yes. Do I like that? No, I like the divisional games to be spread out throughout the year. Obviously, you're going to backload them more in the last couple of weeks of the regular season with like 3 or 4, but 6 I think is a little bit excessive. But really, if you want to play off of that and play off of that conspiracy, you can, which I like. I still enjoy it. It's going to make for some very meaningful football, especially in late November and December down the stretch here, and I cannot be any more excited to see this. The first real crack at Hard Knocks covering 4 different teams in a 6-week stretch as the season wraps up. So, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that, and I can't be more excited to see how that finished product comes out. What is it at the beginning of December? So I cannot wait.
Yeah, I love this stuff. I love documentaries. I love the behind the scenes. Seeing all this is going to be crazy, I think. And whether there's a tight divisional race or not, these teams hate each other. That authentic old classic football feel is alive and well in the AFC North, no matter what. I think this is going to be awesome. And again, there's like a little bit of me that's a little concerned that it's just going to be a little bit of a distraction, but I'm not going to spend too much time worrying about it. This is going to be an awesome behind the scenes look. Camera crew there, the Pittsburgh sport reporters, all those beat writers, they're going to be so excited. There's, video proof of all of these things when they go on Twitter and say something allegedly happened. They're going to finally have a great time. Instead of saying, Kenny Pickett refused to do this. Crazy. That's why he's number 1 on the depth chart. They're going to have video proof now, potentially, of said meeting or of said confrontation. So it's great. It's great. It's a dream for all of us to get this kind of access to your favorite team. And I'm excited. I'm very much excited to see how this all shakes out. Very happy for the Max subscription. You know what? Screw it. For the HBO subscription. I'm not calling it Max. No chance in hell. For the Max subscription. Anyway, it's time for last call. Maybe. The video's just not playing. That's nice. Thank you so much. There we go. Yeah! Ethan was pulling some strings over there outdoors. He's pulling the cord, hitting some of the breakers. Ethan, do you have a last call?
I do. I just want to talk about Paul Skeens and what he's been able to do. His first 7 starts in the major leagues, and the Pirates did something right drafting mustache, big, tall Paul. He's been playing some pretty good ball to a tune of a 4-0 start in the major leagues, 2.29 ERA through 39, almost 40 innings now, striking out 53 guys in that span. He's just been dominant. Gave up an early run last night and finished off with 5 scoreless innings after that. He's just been stout all season long since he made his debut May 11th. You just can't ask for anything more after him. And just to look at his counterparts, the next couple of picks in the draft that the Pirates were after, Dylan Cruz just getting called up to AAA, only hitting 5 home runs this year, 274 on the year in AA. Wyatt Langford not having a ton of success in Texas, getting drafted 4th overall, hitting just 236. The Pirates, they just made it wasn't a hard decision to make, but just what Skeens has been able to do, especially after the workload that he had over the past year with LSU and when he came in to just ramping up for the season and working up his innings at the beginning of May. I expected him to play and pitch very well this first month of the season, or the first month of his career in the majors. But I've just been blown away that how he's carried himself and what he's been able to do every week, pitching once a week. And just if you're a fan, I mean, you just can't ask for just a better start to a career than Paul Skeens has done over this first month of his career.
Anything on your end, Nate?
I think Ethan's just really excited that Livy Dunn's going to be around Pittsburgh. That's all. But switching little gears, because there's not a ton happening.
I do a better cartwheel.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And obviously not a ton going on in Pittsburgh sports right now besides the Pirates, but switching gears to the NBA, obviously going outside of Pittsburgh. Nick, were you planning on talking?
No, this is the last thing I thought I'd hear from you, though.
Nick, I was a
I
little
don't know
worried
where
that
it's
maybe
going
this
yet.
is So tuned in last night to the NBA Finals, Game 5, and, pretty anticlimactic series. Kind of knew that Boston, I mean, they'd just been playing so well, and Dallas is a good team, but I just didn't think they could keep up. But I want to talk about the post-game celebrations and how also anticlimactic those are compared to a lot of other sports. It's so odd just seeing them, sort of walk out onto the floor, and there's not really much of a big celebration. Obviously, you have the confetti falling. You have your moments where, they're doing interviews and embracing their kids, but it's nothing like, I mean, football is obviously, a cool celebration, but nothing like, I think, baseball and hockey in terms of the MLB and NHL when everyone pours out, throwing gloves, throwing sticks if it's hockey, absolutely going wild, embracing each other. Baseball is the same way, and I think baseball is one of the best atmospheres in the postseason. And I just think, it was very odd watching it last night. It was just, and then the icing on the cake, Jason Tatum has the most cringeworthy, not only interviews, but moments. He's trying to, who was it? Kevin Garnett that did the scream back, years ago after the Celtics won the last time. Tatum tried to do his own little thing. I mean, everything he did was so cringeworthy after the game, but it's just like the NBA. I mean, very, very, not very fun to watch the celebration. I mean, it's just sort of like, okay, they won. As a casual fan, I don't know. It's just not something I was really intrigued by. And just on top of it, of course, it's Boston. They won 13 championships since 2000, since this century started. I mean, man, they don't lose, but that was just, I don't know. I just was not that big of a fan of the NBA championship last night.
Yeah, I know we usually don't respond to these, but it bothered me too, so I'm glad you brought it up. NBA Finals was like one of my favorite championship series to watch. You had the big trophy on the court, center court. You had that beautiful script, like the finals on the court too. They did a really good job of presenting it. And then this year's was like, hey, you're watching YouTube TV everywhere. And there's also basketball going on. It was so commercialized. And I think that was a big gripe I've seen on social media. Just like FanDuel here, DraftKings here, YouTube TV here. But there was no like pageantry to the event. The youth like to call it aura. It was auraless. I say the pageantry of the event was really just not there. I mean, no starting intros, no like they have their video packages and stuff, but nothing really to get you hyped. There was no really key moments, and I know they can't really control that, but it just felt like any other basketball game. And I know we're already big NFL, big NHL guys, whatever, but it just felt really bleh in comparison. And I know this year's Stanley Cup, the presentation hasn't been my favorite, but you still know they're going to honor the tradition well and everything. And there's enough there to like give it that oomph that it needs. But the NBA, man, it just felt like any other game. And I get the series wasn't that competitive and there's only so much you can do, but it was just very, oh, here you go. Here's Jason Tatum going, we did it. And, it was just like, okay, great. Congrats. Congrats on Pitt and RMU. They're going to play each other in football at some point within a 6-year span?
Mm-hmm.
One time in like a 6-year span or something. And it's a huge deal. And RMU is going to tell you it's the greatest thing ever. No offense to RMU. We all hold the degree from there. They're going to tell you it's a great thing for brand recognition, brand identity, yippee-ki-yay, yippee-hoo-hoo. Great. You're going to go get smacked at Acrisure and get a big payday. That's great for them. How about we talk about the real thing that people actually want? There is no reason in the year of our Lord and Savior, 2024,
yes,
Robert Morris, Duquesne, and Pitt should not be all playing each other in men's and women's basketball. There is no excuse. I don't care if you want your, we're going to lose a home game. Boo-hoo. Drive 30 minutes down the road. Okay? There's no excuse. Will they mostly be blowouts like Pitt RMU? Sure. It will probably not be that close of a game. But why are you not doing it? Why are you not doing that? Why are you not hosting that? I'm repeating myself because it's frustrated me as a student, and I thought it'd be rectified now 3 years out of college, but it's not. It's not rectified now. There's no reason that this should not be happening. I don't care if it's a tournament. And my idea all along has been you have those three and then you invite WVU or you invite Penn State. You can invite Point Park for all I care. And you just rotate the fourth team. You have a little weekend tournament. One school hosts it. You cycle them through. There you go. Okay? It doesn't matter. There needs to be some sort of arrangement where these three teams are all playing head to head. And if Pitt is too high and mighty to play RMU, they'll give you Duquesne. Okay, that's a great start. At the very least, RMU and Duquesne should be playing each other to see who's the favorite little brother. Okay, there's no excuse those two teams are not playing each other. I know the football scene in Pittsburgh College, aside from Pitt, isn't that spectacular. I've been to high school games where RMU would dream of having the attendance North Allegheny Central Catholic has. Okay, I get it. Duquesne's field holds like 6 people. Okay, it's like cement stairs. I don't know if they renovated it since I toured Duquesne, but it's like, oh damn, there's just a football field next to this skyscraper. That's whack. I get they're playing in football now that they're both associate members of the NEC again. That's great. That's not the same. That is not the same. We are not here for Division I FCS football. We are here for the granddaddy of them all, Division I basketball, where it feels a little more important, okay? Great for you, RMU. Get your payday. Get that bag. Get that bag from Pitt football. Go ahead. Grab it. Run it to the bank. Take it down to the Clearview Federal Credit Union, who sponsors everything there on campus. Go take your check and deposit it in there. Get on the phone. Give me the AD. Give me Heather. Let's get a basketball game going. Duquesne, I don't know your AD, so call Jim Dusick. Get him on the phone. Get that basketball game signed up. Let's go. Let's go. The time for these little football games popping up here and there between the schools, great, whatever, who cares? Let's get basketball going. Let's get basketball going. Let's make that happen. I think we're far past the point of it being funny. Now it's just irritating. Let's make it happen.
Andy Toole always says when we brought it up to him back in the day, oh, if it was only that easy. No, but I agree. It's long overdue, especially RMU and Duquesne. They should be playing every year. There's no question about it. I know. I don't know if this was true, but I know Dan Brott, before he came to Duquesne way back when, he was coaching at St. Vincent St. Mary's, which was where John and Josh Williams went to, I guess.
Yeah, that's who I think.
And when he was in
St. Vincent,
or Josh Williams was at Akron, and Dan Brott was at Akron. So he claimed he didn't want to play. He didn't want to play RMU when Josh Williams was with the team, but he's gone now. He's gone. The Williams brothers are gone. Dan Broad's now retired. Drew Joyce II's now at the helm at Duquesne. There's no question that this should be a regular series. Maybe RMU's tied up now with that MTE that they have going on now that they're playing Stonehill and a bunch of other different small schools in November this year, like they did last year with Jacksonville and Fairleigh Dickinson. They might be tied up with that for the next couple of years, but there's no reason why that they should not be scheduling Duquesne every year, especially now with the notoriety that Duquesne now has after making the tournament for the first time in 40-some years. And with the team that they've brought in and the talent that they have, there's no question that game should not be played every year.
Look, if Philadelphia can do it, then Pittsburgh can do it. Philly's been doing it for however long with all those teams out there. Now, obviously, that's been going on for quite a bit. But look, the big thing I have an issue with is obviously Pitt basketball was held out of the tournament last year. And a big gripe with the committee was they did not play anybody in non-conference. Now, like, just wrote a story on Duquesne's going to the Cayman Islands in November to play, on that MTE, and there's some good teams going to be down there. Boise State, who else down there? South Dakota State was an NCAA team. Boston College out of the ACC. Now, all these teams have these MTEs that they go to, travel to, but yeah, you guys are right that they need to have this. And again, the biggest gripe, though, was this non-conference slate that Pitt had. Why aren't they playing Duquesne? Last year would have been perfect on their non-conference schedule to play Duquesne, and they're still not going to do it for the foreseeable future. Like, why in hell are you not playing Duquesne? Because typically every year it's a pretty easy matchup for Pitt, but in the past 4 seasons, Duquesne has put together 3 20-win seasons, plus an NCAA tournament appearance. That would be beautiful on their resume. But Pitt keeps passing up the opportunity. They keep farting around about it. And then obviously Duquesne and RMU would be a great matchup. And a couple other teams, Nick, you mentioned, you said WVU, Penn State, but 2 other teams, if you really want to just get random teams, Mercyhurst and St. Francis. St. Francis is right down the road.
Amen.
That's the closest team other than West Virginia and maybe Youngstown State, but that's obviously not a Pittsburgh team. I'd say St. Francis is more of a Pittsburgh area team, even though they're a little bit further out there. But there you go. You have 4 teams at least right there with the red flash. So, yeah, make it happen in the next 2 to 3 years.
Someone's going to say, what happened at that new arena you opened up when Pitt played RMU? Huh? I'll tell you what happened. Giannis Mendy elbowed me in the face while I was trying to take pictures when he fell into me, okay? And that's all that happened that night. But anyway, yeah, obviously there's going to be a lot of those kinds of games begging for Pitt to play RMU. It's not a we want to – I'm not we. We are not we. It's not a they should play them because RMU is going to, shock people. There will be years probably where it happens. It's just a fact of it would be good – for the community, for all of the colleges to play each other. And, what benefit is there to RMU playing Pitt? It just makes sense. It just makes sense. Why not? You're 30 minutes away. Just do it. Get it in the early season. Just get it out of the way. Call it a day. You don't need to go to Maui, to the Cayman Islands, or Disneyland when you can just go to Pittsburgh. Go to Moon Township. Why not? They're basically the same thing. This has been Stranded in Pittsburgh. I don't know when we'll be back. It could be next week. It could be 3 weeks. It could be next month. I don't know. I don't care. Schedule the damn games. We'll see you next time.